With Modern Warfare 2 Season 3 Reloaded, we got two brand new weapons of the FTAC Siege and the GS Magna. So how can you unlock those in the fastest way possible? Today we're running down the fastest ways to unlock these new weapons, and in some cases in less than 5 minutes, to help keep you in the action so that you can rank them up and get them into your arsenal in no time. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below. What do you think of these new weapons so far? If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay there with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, DMZ, and all things FPS content. Tons of Season 3 Reloaded content on the way, including a few guides and tutorials for some hidden stuff within this update. So if you'd like to join the community, I'd love to have you. And finally, check out G Fuel with code Espresso for 30% off your order on certain items, but more on them a little later. For now, let's jump into how best to unlock these weapons in as time efficient a manner as possible. So to start, let's just jump in with the weapon challenges. For the FTAC Siege, or rather the Tech 9 as you may be more familiar with it, that tasks you with getting 50 sidearm hipfire operator kills while using handguns. So that has to be other players, not AI. Unfortunately, you can't jump into Invasion, you can't jump into DMZ. Instead, it does have to be on regular players, and the GS Magna tasks you with getting 30 headshot operator kills using the 50 GS, the semi-auto single shot counterpart here of this. But individually, those challenges aren't too terribly tough, but you can actually work them together, knock progress out for both at the same time if you haven't worked towards any of these, or even if you have. But if you wanted to use the Kimbo pistols for the FTAC Siege, you could easily use the X13 Auto or P890, something that packs a bit more punch. But if you haven't made any progress towards either, there's absolutely no harm in jumping in and starting out both simultaneously, where you can use the Akimbo 50 GS. Now, of course, you're not going to have that accuracy at Akimbo as you would to go directly for headshots, but that's where you can jump into something that is essentially just min-maxing your kill potential, and by extension then offers up the potential for more headshots just naturally. From there, the easiest game mode as of right now would be to go into Shipment. Surprisingly, amidst the new seasonal refresh, a new map that's getting highlighted in its own featured playlist, and among another number of factors, Shipment 24/7 is, as of recording this at least, still tucked away at the end of the playlist selection and Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer, just behind 10v10, which is another decent option, but clearly not as good. Now, if you queue for Shipment, go in trying to surf for Domination or Hardpoint, one of those two matches. Things like TDM, Kill Confirmed, and Grind all will go by a little bit too fast to be really worthwhile. But if you end up getting into a Hardpoint, or better yet, a Domination, you can quite literally knock out both of these in almost one singular game, sometimes even in one singular game. Aim high, kit your 50 GS out for sprint to fire and hip fire accuracy, and you're golden. You'll net yourself around 50 kills easily, and while you probably shouldn't worry about going positive, that is something that still can happen. But you're going to be running around with those Akimbo pistols and hoping to end up getting both kills and headshots. The kills come naturally, the headshots oftentimes do as well. To me, that is the absolute fastest method you can end up doing it if you end up sweating it out, again, for just a match or two. But if that still isn't your cup of tea, you can also end up going into a similar method that we've talked about for a few months now. Just like Season 3, just like Season 2 Reloaded, you can go into DMZ with a friend, and so long as they have the weapons unlocked, they can have them as their insured weapon or weapons, and you can end up infilling into Al Mazrah, Ashika Island, Building 21, does not matter, it's entirely up to you, but all you have to do is infill into any of those locations, have them drop you the weapon of choice, and then immediately exfil. Immediately head there, don't go do any looting, don't do any contracts or anything, just head straight for the exfil, or if you're potentially lucky enough to get the heavy chopper immediately, you can use that to exfil as well. The entire process can take anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes depending on how close you are to an exfil location and how long it takes for you to queue into a match. Again, absurdly quick, just like Shipment, though it could be something that takes a little faster than, say, a Domination match that could go 8 to 10 minutes or so on average. Now, yes, perhaps both of those are a bit obvious. However, it is something that I think is absolutely worth mentioning for those that may end up overlooking it. And it's something that is very straightforward and very easy to do. So I would highly recommend doing that. Now, let's say though Shipment isn't necessarily your cup of tea. Maybe you're not too big a fan of DMZ, or you play solo mostly. What do you do perhaps next week, even when Shipment may be gone? What do you do if you don't want to randomly party up with somebody? Beyond that, I'd highly recommend things that engage in smaller map sizes naturally, but more importantly, close quarters engagement potential. You can end up playing maps like Farm 18, but you have to really get into that center maze to end up really being effective with it. Otherwise, you'll be picked off by a rifle, by an SMG at somewhat longer ranges than you may have the ability to kill at with Akimbo pistols or the singular 50 GS on those side lanes. So Shoot House is another great example, but again, there's no guarantee that you'll have that as a playlist. Obviously, it's not even in there right now. It will be a bit slower paced, but one thing that I would recommend is the new Face-Off playlist as well, because that's going to likely be around for a little bit, being it's a brand new introduction here with Season 3 Reloaded, but it's also 3v3 on gunfight maps. So that means that all maps are like the size of Shipment. That map sizing all the time on the modes of TDM, Kill Confirmed, and Domination. So as a result of lower player count, yes, the lower score limits and overall perhaps shorter matches, it might not be as quick as Shipment or DMZ, but it's a very easy way to farm that as well. Very good opportunity to knock it out quick. I'd definitely take that over, say, trying to go into ground war and getting picked off before it can end up reaching close quarters engagements to take out an enemy. Beyond that, I'd recommend the modes of Domination and Hardpoint. Domination, since you can control the map and set up spawn traps where players will have to walk into you or into areas that you control. You can end up controlling the flow of the map. And Hardpoint, because although spawns are a bit more erratic, players will end up throwing themselves at the hardpoint, making them easy targets to pick off if you're moving in and around the hill. Now, additionally, while not available right now, at some point, you will have the ability to buy bundles to grant immediate access to this via a blueprint, and then you can end up using the weapon, ranking it up, while also working to unlock the base weapon. But honestly, I truly don't think it's really worthwhile at all to do this. Save your money. These challenges are very simple. There are very quick and easy ways to do it, just easier ways to do it and for free. So now that you have the weapons, how do they perform? Well, preliminarily, I'm stretched super thin today because there's a bunch of stuff in terms of getting content ready for the weekend while I'm away, as well as just so much stuff that I was trying to tackle here. But preliminarily, the GS Magna kind of feels like a meme, though honestly, its recoil isn't as bad as I considered, but the FTAC Siege might actually have some value to it. That actually might be a viable secondary, and with the attachments that you can end up kitting it out with, it's worth seeing through for the most part right now, if you ask me. How long that feeling will last, again, I'm not entirely sure. I've had enough time to really sit down to tell you if I love it or hate it, but initial thoughts were it wasn't terrible, and it also was reinforced by the fact that I was getting mapped sometimes by this thing on Shipment while using a rifle working towards some of the event camos. So it's got potential is what I'm saying. I think the biggest hindrance though of one versus the other comes down to the magazines on offer. The GS Magna only has 10 levels, and the best mag you can end up using with it is a 13 round mag. So a fully auto 50 cal, maybe in like Warzone solos, maybe for a kill or two if you're lucky within multiplayer that you're blasting somebody up close and personal, but that's about it. It's not really going to be too forgiving in regards to multiple enemies at once. And sure, you can end up using a Kimbo, but at the same time, you're then relying on hip fire and likely having to be close enough to shake hands with the enemy that it's a very situational weapon. The FTAC Siege, however, that is a 50 round and 70 round magazine, which with its fire rate, I'd say is definitely necessary, but it's also something that can still sustain longer duration fights and take players out without having to reload or rely on teammates for cover fire. So are these worth working towards? I think that honestly, any weapon that's a firearm, melees I don't really care too much for, but anything like that I think is worth at least having. However, if you're picking and choosing, I think the FTAC Siege is worth investigating, worth unlocking. Again, all preliminarily. I could jump in with this thing more later tonight, earlier tomorrow, and just hate it. Or I could love it. I still really don't have a hand on it at the moment. That's kind of the downside of what we have with updates like this as a creator. There's just so much stuff that I want to play around with, so much stuff I want to unlock, uncover, make guides for, that the actual playing of things like this and ranking up weapons, the more monotonous stuff, kind of gets pushed to the wayside a bit. So I'll get more hands-on time later after this video goes up, earlier tomorrow, that we can have a better handle on it when we talk about our best loadouts here of Season 3 Reloaded for Warzone and stuff like that. But for the time being, it's something that I would say investigate the FTAC Siege if you're only going for one or the other. But I mean, you have the opportunity to do both in one fell swoop. So that said, that is what we're going to call it. That's how to unlock the weapons in as fast a manner as possible and as efficient a manner as possible. So let me know your thoughts down below. Before we wrap everything up, make sure you check out my friends over at Gfuel. Again, code Espresso gets you 30% off certain things, like even the starter kit here for the month of May. So if you guys want to try something out for the very first time, a starter kit's 30% off. So it's a great deal on that at the moment, along with a few other select tubs as well. But code Espresso normally gets you 20% off everything. So 20 to 30% off with that over in the link in the description below, but entirely up to you. For now, that's what we're gonna call it. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.